My name is Sinclair. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Architecture for Humanity. Our organization gets architects, designers, urban planners, and construction professionals involved in humanitarian projects around the world.
What we found in doing our work is it's not about building a building. It's about how do you transform a community through creating jobs, social cohesion, a resilience within that community, dignity and hope. This is a really important picture. It was a favorite picture from last year. The saddest thing about Facebook is to realize how depressing architects are. And I say this because I am one. Anybody who's an architectural student or a young designer, if you look at their holiday photos, it's really, really depressing. What happens is it rains like the night before in Barcelona, and so you've got this nice reflective glow, and then they get up at 5 in the morning to take pictures without people in them because that's the architecture. That's not architecture, that's just sculpture. Architecture is where life happens. Architecture should be where grandparents are hanging out, teenagers are hooking up, and there's a stray animal in your building. Like, it's only a successful project if there's a stray dog, chicken, donkey in one of our buildings.
We worked with a group called Grassroots Soccer to develop a center, which is the Kaelisha Football for Hope Center. The role of that building was to get youth involved in HIV/AIDS training, but also to create a center where kids could feel safe and be involved in kind of after-school activities.
Working with the kids to develop the program, integrating artists, having a social venture to create a for-profit mechanism for maintenance of the building, a light tower that lights up and allows the police and a hospital to know when something's happened so there could be rapid response. That led to a massive decrease in crime and a huge increase in perceived safety. And over 18,000 kids used that one center for HIV/AIDS training.
The other one I would do is a small beer garden in northern Japan. This was after the tsunami.
We've built about a dozen projects in Japan. You have to treat each disaster differently, and you have to look for the cracks and the areas that are not being responded to. In Japan, they had funds for schools. They had money for rebuilding the infrastructure. They had a government in place, unlike Haiti. But what they don't have and what they've been ignoring is small businesses. They're all being decimated across the north.
In our interviews and workshops with the community, you would imagine the first thing that someone wants is a house. And it turned out that what they wanted was a bowl of noodles. Most of the communities were living in these temporary shelters that were far off from their traditional villages, and so they were kind of displaced not only via their housing but also their social and economic network. They didn't know where to shop, they didn't know where to kind of gather, and what we realized is that you could build a giant building and call it a community center, but nobody would show up. But you're using kind of food and fun as a mechanism to bring people together, and when we built it, suddenly hundreds of families had a place where they could gather and they could talk about how do they rebuild. So it was essentially just a place to get a hot meal. But what it transformed into was the community center that we were eventually going to build. We realized that community doesn't necessarily need a building, it just needs a gathering spot.
So the way we work is we embed architects in the community. They live and work in the community that they build the building from anywhere between 6 months to 2 years.
Actually, in northern Japan, they actually slept in tents for 6 months with the community, and they got to understand the nuances and what the stresses and the things that were really on the minds of the community.
Also to partner with local design and building professionals and not undermine them, create kind of a collaboration between the two. And then engaging the community as partners, learning, listening, and designing together. And eventually helping create opportunities by building jobs through local construction trade. And part of the process is not just to design, but implement in a way that will maximize the number of local jobs.
Many people see architecture that the building is the solution. I actually think that the design process is the solution, and it's where it takes you. What design can do is engage and empower a large number of people to take ownership in their own destiny.